Who's in the squad tomorrow though? Who, after how many months out with injury, is back in the squad for tomorrow? It's none other than Reubens Loftus-Cheek. Now Lampard did say from the start that Reubens isn't fit to start the game, but he is part of the squad. So this does imply, hopefully, that Reubens gets some minutes off the bench. And could this mean that potentially against Bayern Munich he gets even more minutes against them? I mean, I'm excited. I'm starting to think ahead a bit, but this really is big news when it comes to securing a top 4 finish at the end of the season. How you guys doing? I'm Nini FC. This is Blue Line TV, and today I'm here to bring you the match preview for our big game tomorrow afternoon against Tottenham. London derby. A lot of pride is on stake tomorrow, boys. So let's hope, let's pray, come on, finishing boots are on point. We get a big win at home and take that confidence going forward to our other must-win games happening throughout the month. In today's video, I'm going to break down the predicted lineups. I'm going to talk about the tactical aspect as well, talking about in detail what we can do to get the 3 points against Tottenham, and of course I'll be giving my thoughts and opinions throughout. So if you do that today's video, you guys, then smash that like button. If you want us to get that win against Spurs, make sure you hit that like button. I'm going to be ambitious and go for 2,000 likes for today's video. So if you guys are serious, make sure you smash that like button. Now, very quickly, I'll go through the press conference today. There's only 2 things that I want to just talk about. Of course, that's Lampard confirming that Reubens is going to be back in the squad tomorrow. And as well as that, I want to talk about who's going to be playing up front. Now, Lampard stated that Olivier Giroud, the reason why he didn't start the last game is because he isn't fully fit. And I feel like it's this detail in particular that us as fans will never fully appreciate or understand, because we have to realize and accept that we aren't working with these players week in, week out. We don't know their physical conditions. We don't know the variables at play that forces Lampard to have to make certain decisions. So I really think at times the fan base can be quite counterproductive, really unfairly critiquing Lampard for unnecessary reasons when we don't have the full information. Now, let's hope that Giroud does get back to full fitness. I mean, it does make a lot of sense, guys, because of course he was planning to leave the club for multiple months. So naturally he wasn't part of things, naturally he wasn't involved as much. It does make sense, so let's hope that Giroud gets back to full fitness. Of course, Lampard's saying that Tammy is 70%, so hopefully that means that he gets some involvement in the game tomorrow. If you're asking me, I'm expecting Tammy to start, come off in the 60th minute, and Giroud to come on to play the remaining 30 minutes of the game. Of course, the big news being Reubens' return back to the team. Now, I was really asking everyone I knew, what the hell happened on Monday? I heard absolutely nothing, and I can't lie, you guys, I had this weird hunch and feeling that we could be seeing the unexpected in regards to Reubens. Now, I've told you guys this on this channel before, but I've always felt that the club had been really lying and trying to gas up Reubens' injury. I felt like his road to recovery was going a lot more smoother than what the club wanted to report and let us know, and I mean, that makes a lot of sense. You know, second half of the season, some big games, we need to get Champions League football. I don't want managers preparing and second guessing how to prepare against us with a team that includes Reubens. I don't want to see that. Lampard's shown already this season that he will gas stories up, he will make things up, he will deceive us and surprise us with players being part of the team. Now, you might be expecting, Nini, you should do a Reubens video today. I'm going to say that for tomorrow because I want to see how Reubens plays first so I can make the best possible judgments and ideas for what the future of Reubens could be like in this team. But anyway, you guys, they're the only things I'm going to focus on. We now move into the predicted lineup part for today's video. Now, I'm going for 2 possible formations. Starting with the first one, that is a 4-3-3. But this 4-3-3 does have a bit of a twist. I am taking a bit of a risk. As you guys can see, I have Reece James playing down the right hand side of that midfield 3. Now, my reasoning is, we've seen quite a lot throughout the season that Lampard likes his wide midfield players to make runs out wide to help create overloads. Against Tottenham, tomorrow we have to really maximise our use of the flanks. I feel the overload tactic would work best. And of course with Reece James, him moving down the right hand side, linking up with Willian, could have that same effect. Now the beauty of this could be that Azpilicueta doesn't have to push up as high to help support the play, instead maybe moving his positioning close to the midfield, because, and as you'll hear me say later on in this video, I do have a major criticism in regards to both Jorginho and Kovacic, so if you guys want to hear that, make sure you stay right to the end. But getting back to things, I could envision us being a 3-4-3 in attack, allowing us to win that midfield battle against Spurs, overload the wide areas, and of course have defensive cover in behind the midfield players. Now the second formation I've gone for, and the formation that I think we are going to use, is going to be the 3-4-3. Now the reason for this is because Korver and Jorginho lack so much defensive discipline. They constantly allow runners in behind the lines, they constantly don't track runs as well, they constantly get too gassed and excited and they leave their position suppressible, moving into an area where they're not affecting anything, and people wonder why our defense looks so bad. Defending starts from the top every single time. Once the lines break down further up in front of you, that's going to affect the last line of your defense, which is your defenders. Playing a 3 at the back would mean that we have a defender for each one of Spurs' attacking players. It will give the ability for us to use our centre backs' great passing distribution. I mean, in the game where we beat them 2-0, how many great long through balls were we seeing from our centre backs to our wing backs, and we were constantly able to catch out a very compact and defensive Spurs team. Playing with wing backs would mean that we're going to create more overloads, and when you have a player in Reece James, you know, for me, up there with Alexander-Arnold when it comes to being incredible playmaking fullbacks, then I feel like 3-4-3, especially a 3-4-3 without Kante, would be the best formation to use as this team's been hit with so many injuries. But anyway, you guys, for the final part for today's video, it's going to be all things tactics. I'd strongly suggest you guys watching things because you can get a better understanding of what our game plan is, what we need to do against Spurs, what to expect from Spurs as well, and of course, many tactical nuances as well. So we get straight into things, moving on to tactics. Now, as you guys can see on screen, I'm predicting that Spurs will use a 4-3-3, and I think we'll use a 3-4-3. And the main reason for this is due to the lack of defensive discipline from both Jorginho and Kovacic, who have a big propensity to allow movement in behind their lines. Once you find spaces between the lines, this is how you affect and disrupt our defensive line, and this is how teams have been getting goals against us. The benefit of using a 3-4-3 is that you have another defender at the back who's able to then spot the runs in front of him that the midfield players in Jorginho or Korver never ever see. What am I hinting at? Well, I'm hinting at the fact that we have a pressing issue. We have too many players that don't have the full propensity to press effectively. Of course, they can do great things in moments, but altogether in their overall game, it's just a bit too weak. With Jorginho, his lack of physicality, his lack of strength and pace to actually cover those distances quickly, always catches him out. And with Korver, unfortunately, he just has too much indiscipline in his game. It's why he keeps losing his place in the team non-stop, and it's because he keeps pushing up too high and not following tactical instructions. Now for me, the key to beating Spurs is our pressing plan and our man marking orientated style, and I'm going to explain to you why I feel this will be the best way to get a possible 3 points against Tottenham. Now, starting with Tottenham, their biggest weakness under Mourinho is that they become way too narrow every single time. And of course, when we beat them 2-0 earlier, that was because we masterfully exploited the spaces down the flanks. And of course, we were constantly able to exploit Spurs out wide down the flanks. Implementing the same man marking system that we used against Spurs earlier this season when we beat them 2-0 would be the best tactics to use for tomorrow's game. Now for this system to work, it means that Jorginho and Kovacic can't leave their position, they can't come out to press the ball in the final third, they need to hold their central positions. This way they can spot the runs of your Ndombeles or your Lo Celsos, and of course, it will force the Spurs players to have to make their passes out wide down the flanks, which is the areas that we want Spurs to play their passes so we can use our overloading pressing style to win the ball, switch the play to the opposite flank, stretch Spurs' defensive line, and of course, hopefully, pray to God, get a goal at the end of that. But of course, you guys, I'm going to explain visually in greater detail so you can get a better understanding of what the game plan has to be. Now to start with things, let's imagine that Davis is on the ball. He's just received a pass from Alderweireld. Here's how the game plan has to work. As I mentioned earlier, the two guys in the pivot keeping their positions and holding their positions in those areas. Mount, Tammy and Willian have to keep a compact shape in the central areas because they're trying to force passes out wide in these zones right here. So Tammy stops the pass to Sanchez, Mount does it to Alderweireld, Willian moves closer to Winks. Then of course this means that our defensive line can then push up, and then we can use the wing backs to help close down the fullback from Spurs' area. Anyway, going back to Jorginho and Cover again, them holding their positions in these areas gives us a counter-pressing foundation to potentially win more balls in Spurs' area. And that's because Spurs don't have a striker that can hold the ball. And with a team like Spurs, who sometimes need to use the long ball to of course bypass our midfield, get the ball straight to the striker who can then hold up the ball and bring others in the game, Spurs don't have the option. So what this will do is create big gaps between Spurs' midfield and their strikers, giving us more of a foundation to potentially win the ball in their own half and cause them a lot of issues. Now, before I end things, I do want to talk about the influence of Mount and Willian, who in the last game where we beat them 2-0 were absolutely incredible. And in that sense, it makes a lot of sense because when we were on the offense, they were able to use their intelligent positioning within the half spaces here. And of course, the half spaces tends to be a perfect area to be able to control the game in your opposition's half, and of course pin back the defensive line. So as you guys can see here, and as you guys can see here, them being in this area causes a lot of confusion because it either means that one of the defenders has to step out to close a man down, and whenever you do that, that can be exploited. Or of course it implies that one of the midfield players would have to drop deep to help out and, of course stop the overloads. And all you end up doing is creating even bigger gaps between your midfield and your attack. Now let's say for example we're looking to overload the ball down the right hand side. Well, the beauty is it then forces Spurs to have to become more compact to deal with the danger down the right hand side. And this is where we can have the big advantage. So, I have a feeling Aspie will play. Ideally I prefer it to be Emerson, maybe even Marcus Alonso. And that's because we get to free up the spaces in these areas here. Now, of course, we were constantly able to find options in the midfield who could then play switch balls down the opposite flank. And of course, when you've got your fullback here going 1v1 against Spurs' fullback here, well, this frees up the spaces within the half space. As you guys can see on screen right now, these areas here, the perfect areas we want to exploit Spurs, because then it forces a Spurs defender to have to step out or a midfield player to deal with the ball. And as you guys can see, the beauty of this is the spaces you create. And when you have runners like your Tammys, your Mounts, etc., you can find some joy against a team like Spurs. Now, of course, I've explained how the plan should work against Spurs. Of course, our limiting factor every single time is actually the quality of the individual player. Now, system-wise, these guys know how to play, but as the game goes on, mistakes tend to creep up in certain players' games, tends to be from the midfield most times than anything, you guys. And of course, we can't forget that the forwards in their finishing tends to let them down time and time again. And honestly, if we were more clinical, we'd be in more favourable positions where we could actually just seal out the wins being 2-0 up, defend, play on the counter, and get more points, because that was exactly what we were doing in the earlier parts of this season. So you guys, that's the tactics for the game tomorrow. In the comment section below, give me your thoughts and opinions. Do you feel confident? Do you feel that we can get the points against Spurs? And on that note, I'm going to wrap things up and keep things moving. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe. I'm UniFC. This is Blue Lions TV. I'll see you guys tomorrow.